It's time for another community build roundup. In this week's episode, we're going to be checking out a grapevine arbor, a desk, a grilling cart, a coffee table, and a collapsible batting cage. All kinds of really awesome builds as always. Let's jump right in and check them out. First up is this fantastic grapevine arbor, and this comes from Grape. It looks like they have a storefront here. It looks like a beautiful area, I think somewhere out west, and just a really awesome place. And they have this big concrete slab that they wanted to add. I think they're only using this as a grapevine arbor. They didn't really say if they were going to be using it for anything else besides that, but you can see here where the plants are already grabbing on and climbing up the poles on this side. So I imagine they're going to let it climb all the way up and then just continue climbing around the poles and have just a really awesome looking structure here, and it'll provide some shade once the vines are growing. There's a lot of leaves and things on there. But maybe they're actually going to use this as a shade structure. This is a perfect shade structure. They've got here that they could add some shade cloth or some sort of kind of sun covering or canopy. So this is really cool, and I really love this. They basically used some flanges to bolt this to the concrete here. I don't know if it's bolted into concrete or just kind of resting there as a foot, but this is the method that we've talked about on the channel a couple of times, where basically you get the plumbing flange, like for black iron pipe or for the steel pipe, and you can thread a off-the-shelf electrical coupling into that plumbing flange, and you can create a flange for EMT Conduit that's compression based, and it's really sleek and a really nice solution for doing flanges. And we can see they've got basically all the verticals are resting on the ground with that solution, and the verticals go up, and then they're using some more off-the-shelf electrical fittings, some compression fittings here to basically create and attach the corners. I love the way they did these corners, where basically you can see here they got some of the pre-bent 90s. This is something that you can buy. It's just a 90-degree elbow that's pre-bent. You can buy it off the shelf. A little expensive, but it might be worth it, so you don't have to buy a bender and do all the bending yourself. You can just buy this. And they secured those with those off-the-shelf compression couplings, and that's how they did the corners, which gives it a nice look. And if they are using this as a sunshade, that'll kind of make it, kind of smooth transition for the shade on top, so it's not, hitting that harsh corner of the pipes and could potentially rip the shade. And I think the rounded corners just looks nice anyway. So that's really cool. And then we can start seeing some maker pipe connectors here. So they're using T connectors to basically add the cross support that goes from one vertical to the other. And then there's a 180-degree connector in the middle, and then that goes down. Basically repeated that design. So another 180 and then T connector. So same kind of design going all the way down there. And then basically the same design up top as well for that pipe that's going all the way across. 180 there, 180 there, and then we've got the T connectors on the ends to add these pipes going from one side to the other. And then I think even on the next pipe as well follows that same design. So really simple, and a lot of these structures, when you look at them, it seems kind of overwhelming, but really they usually only utilize one or two connectors, or really the main four being the T connector, the 90-degree, the 45-degree, and the 180. Those are kind of the four main ones that you'll use for a majority of things. And then the other ones are more really specific, unique, and I guess the adjustable angle is really useful too, probably in that. I would put that in that kind of upper category of what you would use the most. And the other ones are kind of unique and specific to a certain thing. But then we can see that they use the flange solution again back here to secure the very top horizontal pieces to the wall of the building here, and that's pretty much the design. Like I said, not too complicated. Just really, I think, just two types of maker pipe connectors, just the T and the 180, and then of course that off-the-shelf solution for the base and for the flanges there. So really cool, awesome job, Grape. Thanks so much for sharing this. Really beautiful project, and it came out fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing this again. Really appreciate it. Next up is a simple desk, and this comes from Jesse. And I think he said he built it for his child. And this is just a corner desk. Like he said, nice and simple. It's really just four verticals and then 90-degree connectors in those corners to basically make this rectangular box shape. And then T connectors just to add a support from the front to the back to support the desktop. And then he said that he left the left side here. You can see there's some stubs sticking out because the 90-degree connector, that middle connection we call a through connection, which basically allows the pipe to run continuously through it, whereas these pipes that come in from the side, those stop inside the connector. And those we call just like a terminating connector or connection as opposed to the through pipe connection. So that's really cool. And he left those kind of long there so he could add some different things to it. I think he said he has like a bent piece that comes off of it. Oh, I forgot too, something really cool, and I wanted to incorporate this to my desk at home after seeing this. I think it's a great idea. Use some of the dry erase marker paint. I think you can. I know there's chalkboard paint, but I'm not sure if this dry erase. Probably not. I don't know if that would make sense, but it looks like maybe they added some kind of like a glossy. I know they added basically a dry erase finish to this. I don't know if it was a sticker or if it is paint. That would be cool if it's a paint, but I don't know how that would work. But anyway, but they added that so you can actually draw and use a dry erase board as the desktop, which is really cool. I have a million sticky notes on my desk, but it would be better if I could just write a to-do list instead of writing it on the sticky note. You can write it on your desk and then erase it and then make the next to-do list for the next day or whatever. So that's really cool and something really great to incorporate into desks and things. But here we can see he's using some off-the-shelf couplings to add a bent piece that's coming off of the desk, and said he can use that to hang up clothes or, who knows, all kinds of different things. You can kind of create little attachments for all kinds of stuff. If you want to, hang up clothes or like sports uniforms. I know oftentimes when I come in from a run, I'll throw my stuff on the floor. I'll like lay a towel down and lay it down. But building something like this to kind of hang dry some things is a really good idea. And you could kind of build all kinds of different attachments. If you want to have a writing desk that you then use for gaming or something, you can add like a monitor mount that you can take off and then change to like a light, all kinds of cool stuff. So really cool, Jesse. Thanks so much for sharing this. Really love seeing it. Next up is a grilling cart. This comes from DH. This was left as a review, and all kinds of great bins in this build. Love seeing it. Bins are one of my favorite things in builds. It's just, I think, because we see a lot of the harsh angles and a lot of the squared corners, so it's really nice to see bins. Just gives things a nice look, especially when you got the round grills here. But basically, this is a cart, nice and simple for holding. He's got 3 grills on there. Got some serious barbecue happening, and basically he's using just a lot of T-connectors, it looks like. Maybe even all T-connectors for this frame, but there's a lot of bins. I think the 2 pieces are joined together here, so if I would imagine a good technique whenever you're doing something that has a lot of complex bins like this, I recommend, kind of breaking it up into segments that make sense, and then you can join those segments together with coupling. So instead of trying to do one giant U-bin that goes all the way around, you could basically split this in half. You can imagine here, so you could just do a U-shaped bin, which is pretty straightforward, and then you could couple it there and then couple it here to another piece that you have, going around that way. So that's a good technique to keep in mind if you're doing stuff like this, or if you're doing like a trellis arch or different things like that. But basically, like I said, he's got those 2 halves joined together. I'm not sure how he did the joint here. Maybe just the really simple one where you use threaded pipe inserts and then thread them together. I don't know how well that would work if you're doing this. Maybe it might be welded or something. It looked like it was kind of welded. I don't know, maybe. But basically join that together, and then it's using T-connectors, to add these pipes that go down and, oops, I got the eraser chosen, to go down, and then kind of creates this curve down here, and then goes to the back and is joined with those T-connectors. Got a cross brace here. Then it looks like he's using some like universal lawnmower wheels, and don't really have, didn't really get any information on how he did the axles or those mounts there, but it looks really cool and looks like a great solution. I like the way he did this. Usually we see like an axle incorporated into the build and the wheels are kind of on the outside of the frame, but this, the wheels are on the inside of the frame, which is really unique and not something that we've seen a ton of, but it looks like it could just be as simple as just buying like one of those universal axle kits, and then it looks like he might have just drilled through the conduit and bolted through a block that's on the other side of the axle on this side, and so the axle, I'm sure, has bearings, or maybe the wheels have bearings in the hub there to allow it to still spin. But really cool solution. And then to mount the grills, he used, looks like there's just some kind of angle iron. I don't know if these were custom made or if these came with the grills. Probably came with the grill, I would imagine, because whenever they sell these, you got to mount them somewhere. But basically, it looks like just a piece of flat stock that goes down and then around the other side, and then it looks like just some screws or bolts going into it, and then I'm sure, there's, something going into the grill itself to mount those. But all in all, that's pretty much it for the build, and really cool, awesome project, DH. Really appreciate you leaving the review and sharing this build with us. We love seeing it. Next up is a coffee table from Avery, and this is fantastic. Really great coffee table, nice and simple, really close in design to the desk, but a lot of times you'll see designs that are very similar, but the dimensions are customized to whatever, to whatever it is that you want to make. So we saw this, it actually is the exact same design. It's 4 90-degree connectors in the corners, you can see here, to make this rectangle. And that's what we saw with that desk earlier. And then there's T connectors in the middle to add this support for the coffee table. And then that's pretty much it. You got the 4 verticals, and then of course the tubes going around to make the actual rectangle. And then those are the 6 connectors that you would need to kind of connect all those tubes together. And then he's using 2-hole straps, which are nice and simple, really great solution for securing flat materials like this to a framework. And then we can see in the other photo, there it is all finished, got a plant on top, and he said he used, I think, some kind of red mahogany stain, if I'm not mistaken, which looks really cool. And I'm sure with the light hits it, you probably get some really nice kind of red hues out of it, which is really awesome and just a really great table. Like I said, same design as what we saw with the desk, but this one is totally different. It's a lot shorter, a lot narrower, a lot wider to make a coffee table as opposed to the desk that we saw. So really cool. Love seeing stuff like that. And maybe you can build a desk for yourself or whatever it might be and use that same design, but customize it for your dimensions and whatever you're working with. So really cool. Thanks so much, Avery, for sharing this. We love seeing it. Last but definitely not least is a project from Bree. She sent this to the company Instagram, and I'm really glad that she did. This is an amazing project. I mean, all the projects are amazing and cool. We love seeing them all, but this is really cool as well. Basically, this is a batting cage. You can see that they've got one son here that is playing basketball. They've got a pretty big driveway, and then they've got one son being pitched to in the back in this batting cage. And so now they're able to practice both sports at once. It's really cool. Just as it is right now, this is a fantastic batting cage solution. But you'll see there, no longer playing basketball, and that allows them to grab onto the frame, and it's actually collapsible. So he's moving the kind of pitching, I forget what that's called, the pitching, I don't know, it's like a protective wall for the pitcher. I know it has a name, but I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But look, the batting cage is rolling apart. It's like a transformer, and it's becoming a full-fledged, really long batting cage, which is just really amazing. And they're able to allow, both kids to practice their respective sport. And then whenever they need to do, more practice in a longer batting cage, they can really get some good reps in because they've got a really long batting cage. And there's a ton in this build to break down. Like I said, this is one of those, or like I said earlier, project looks really complex. Like this project looks really, really complex. But when you break it down, it's a lot of the connectors, like a lot of those main 4 or 5 connectors that I mentioned. And then, to make that box shape like we saw with the desk or with the coffee table, you use 90-degree connectors in the corners, kind of create that box. And then we can see, of course, there's a ton of angled bracing in a project like this. You really got to brace, large projects. So that's where those 45-degree connectors come in. And then, we can see the insulation that are on the tubes. That'll help with some ricochet if the baseball ends up hitting them. And then there's a net. And I asked her where she got the net, and she said that she had to look around and kind of, figure out the dimensions and find one. But she basically bought a replacement net for a existing batting cage that fit the dimensions that, she built this out of. And basically said she just kind of doubled up and folded it over in places that it was, too long or too wide. And then I imagine just probably use zip ties, something really easy to secure that to the framework. And the solution that you're probably most curious about, which I was really curious about, is the wheels on the bottom. Let's see if we can kind of see in one of these photos. And you might recognize this. Kind of looks like airplane wheels when I look at it like this, the landing gear coming down, but it's a lot simpler than that actually. This is a gate wheel solution. So if you've seen one of those large gates, we actually have one in the parking lot. Maybe I'll take a video of it and put it on the screen so you can see it. But the gate wheels that secure to the bottom of the gate, you can grab onto and you can roll it and close and open the gate. Well, basically that's what she used to make this collapsible. And she said she looked around quite a bit for different wheels that allowed it to move the way they needed it to. But basically, as you'll see in the video, I'll take of the one we have outside, you'll see that basically it's like a crossover clamp or like a U-bolt design where it just kind of clamps around it. And I had never really thought about using that in builds before, but it makes a ton of sense. I'll have to look around and see if I can find some that would fit EMT Conduit well, or I guess I should just ask her where she got these, because it looks like these fit EMT Conduit. And it looks like it's working really well. But this is just one of those really awesome projects, really creative. I'm sure it took a lot of thought and planning, and she did a great job with the build, and really glad that she shared it with us. A really, really awesome job, and just a really cool build. And, both kids can practice their sports, and then, as you can see there, get a full-fledged pitch going and get some really good practice in. So really, really great. I'm sure it's a hit with the kids. Oh, gosh. And with that, I will end this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. All the builds will be linked down below if you want to check them out in more detail. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you in the next one.